Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. I'm Kim Skorupski here at Hopkins looking at Dr. Ann Brown. Hi, Ann.
Hi, Kim. Good to see you.
See me again because, folks, this is one of those great kind of serendipity things. I was at a conference in Boston last month, I guess it was, the Institute of Coaching. I'd never been to their conference before. I was running into a plenary or some big session, and there are, I think, about 400 people in this room, these big conferences. And I go scooting up to this kind of front row area, because I have long legs, and there's one seat, and I kind of nudge myself in there, and I'm sitting there a good, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes. And the speaker said, turn to the person next to you and say something or ask something. And I turned and I looked, and kind of my eyes got big, and there it was, Ann Brown. And Ann said, Kim. And I said, Ann, of all people, never been to this conference before. I don't know another person. And there is a person I know from the AAMC Group on Faculty Affairs. I've known her for, maybe a dozen years or so. Dr. Ann Brown. Wasn't that weird, Ann?
It's a miracle. It was one of those, oh my gosh, there you were sitting right next to me. It was so nice to see you. And I had never been to that conference either. And it was great. We're both interested in coaching.
Yeah. And then we just sat there and gabbed about later life transitions and coaching, and how we both have this passion that has kind of transitioned us into this love of coaching. And here we are. Well, Dr. Ann Brown was the Vice Dean for Faculty for about 10 or 11 years at Duke University School of Medicine. And you might want to check out her earlier episode. It's great. It's number 196, and it's entitled Building the Lattice Framework for Faculty Development. So those of us, if you're new to academic medicine, if you're a new leader in faculty development, in faculty affairs, you're going to want to check out episode number 196 with Dr. Brown. It was really great episode. Lots of hits on that one. And Dr. Brown is here today to talk about a subject that we both deal with, and with coaching and in our professional lives and personally. So Ann, take it away. What's our topic today?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for the chance to talk to you again and to say hello to everybody out there, all of our colleagues out in podcast land. What we talked about before was faculty development, which has been a passion and a focus of mine for my whole career. And one of the things that I heard a lot about and tried to develop some expertise in is having difficult conversations, facing up awkward situations, being able to talk them through and try to get to a better place. And that has morphed into also how to approach people who are behaving in ways that are disruptive. We use the word toxic sometimes, but scratchy sometimes. And so these are issues that come up a lot in our environments, and in working with faculty who are in faculty development, faculty leadership programs, this comes up. I teach in the ELAM and ELH program, very honored to be able to do that. And I teach this workshop called Kerfuffles, Conflicts, and Misunderstandings, both in the spring and then in the fall. And they are two kind of, one is sort of an introduction to it, and the other is dealing with disruptive behavior. And so I really love talking about this. And so you and I got talking about this because as I've retired from Duke and I've started doing executive coaching in academic medicine, this often comes up with my clients who are, facing something that they really are having a hard time working with. I think that my inspiration for this often is in the books that I read. I learn just like everybody else from trial and error and from books. And I think two books I really like a lot are Crucial Conversations and Crucial Accountability. They're just, rock solid kind of books about this. And there are many others as well. I don't know, Kim, what would be most useful? I can kind of jump into the kinds of things that I talk about that might be like, here's sort of my framework for thinking about it. Would that be helpful, or would you like me to go in a different direction?
No, I would love that framework because we also use crucial conversations and difficult conversations. Both they're slightly different frameworks, but I love if you could just start with that. What does that mean? How can we think about some talking points to get us around understanding somebody else's point of view and what we own if we are in a difficult conversation, or what part of that we own and that we participated in. And even if we are helping mediate a difficult conversation, making sure each participant understands that they contributed and contribute to some situation and how they're experiencing it. We
Yeah,
always
I
talk
mean, that would be
about
the ideal,
yeah,
right? Where people are aware. And I think that's really the first thing that kind of the first thing to think about is how do you become aware when you're in one of those situations that is activating you? And, sometimes you get too deep into it, you're just activated, you're that whole fight, flight, or freeze axis is activated, and you're kind of into it before you've had a chance to think about it. And I think one of the first things is just recognizing when you need to have a conversation, or when you are having a reaction to someone's behavior, and, knowing what that is. It might be a physical sensation. And for us, that might be, actually, ironically, as physicians, as many of us are physicians, that may be hard to do, because even though we think about the physical body all the time, we're often kind of thinking head, from the neck up, and don't pay attention too much to what's happening in our body. But I think the first thing is to recognize what's happening. Do you clench your teeth? Do you, feel your heart race? Somebody was telling me today that they have an Apple Watch, and they can watch their heart rate go up. They watched their heart rate go up when they had a difficult situation happen that morning.
yeah,
So I think recognizing is the first thing, and honoring that. And and then, like you said, try to appreciate there may be more to the situation than you know. And I think the magic for me um, is to um, try to help people get curious about a situation. We're problem solvers, and we are fast problem solvers. We try to do it in, our 10-minute patient encounter block. And often these sorts of situations are ones that ask you to step back and say, all right, I'm reacting here, but what do I not know about this situation? What do I want to know more about in this situation? And can I, instead of reacting with a statement, kind of think about how I might ask a question, and maintain for a little bit, non-judgmental stance.
yeah,
And that may take a second, you know, to kind of let your prefrontal cortex come online,
yeah.
and let yourself have a minute to kind of use your brain to help you manage how you're going to behave, rather than your hormones.
Yeah, and how do you coach um, people when just yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody, and they're like, it was maybe a problem with a staff member, and they're like, and he does it all the time. It's repeated. We've talked about this before. I don't understand how I can be more clear. We've done that. He said this, and then he keeps dropping the ball. And it's this repeated behavior where um, it's almost like you can see another blow up happening because this is a pattern. The other person seemingly isn't owning their part in the
Mhm.
problem, because
Yeah.
I guess, I'm kind of thinking that this is two kind of dichotomies. On one hand, it's almost similar to the thing of, oh, if you're burned out, throw down a yoga mat, get the calm app open, breathe, relax, focus on your sleep, almost as, taking care of yourself, focusing on what do you own? What did you bring to this? How can I be non-judgmental? How can I be curious? So fixing my responsivity. And the opposite side of that is, gosh, there's a systemic problem here. This is a structural problem. This is something that I have every right to be upset about this. I can't breathe my way through this. This must be fixed. So
Yes. Yeah. No.
coach people through that kind of thing of, yes, do all those things that kind of get out of our, the lizard brain, but also like, how do you fix a problem? How
Right.
do we my life
Beautiful. Right. Yeah.
justify?
Manage yourself first, right? Take care of yourself,
Okay.
and first. And I think, I think that, the one model for this is the ladder of inference, where you kind of use the model of, you see something, you hear something, there's a sensory kind of component to it, then you kind of tell a story about it, and the story triggers an emotion in you, and then you're off to the races with whatever your action is. And so if you imagine a ladder of where you're climbing up this ladder from what you see to what you do, it happens very fast. And so, one of the images is to walk back down that ladder and to say, well, maybe what do I not know? And to kind of talk yourself into this space where there could be another story that you're just not seeing. And maybe you don't know what it is, but it's possible. It's possible that that person is not an idiot, that there's something that is driving their behavior. And so, I think that a good non-judgmental way to approach that with a person is to, this is from the book Crucial Accountability, is to sort of say, look, my expectation, which we talked about, was that you would have the project done by this time, let's say, and here we are, and it's that time, and the project is not done. So tell me what's your perception of that gap? What's going on with that gap? So it's non-judgmental. It's curious.
Hmm.
And you're giving space to kind of add more information to the equation, to
Mm.
what you don't know. And I think that one of the things that's hard about a difficult conversation or a tense conversation is your own kind of, you're sort of poised to be reactive, and you're worried you're going to say the wrong thing. And I think that if you start imagining yourself on the same side of the table with a person, like, all right, here's this problem that we both have together. Like, we have this agreement. I thought we had an agreement. Here's what happened. What's going on? It ratchets down your emotional energy quite a bit, I think. And being curious is a lot less expensive than being judgmental.
Wait, let me say that. Say that again. Being curious.
Being curious is a lot less expensive than being judgmental.
Curious.
Expensive, like in terms of your own energy expended on it, and in terms of the damage that you cause
I
when
love.
you're when you're judgmental, when you may not know everything. And then once you have that person kind of telling you why they can't do it, you can begin to problem solve. It's because they don't know how to do it, or their incentives are running counter to that goal. Um, or they have social pressure from another boss, for instance, that's preventing them from doing it. So it kind of gets into a strength, which is our problem solving.
That's great. Being curious is a lot less expensive than being judgmental and a lot more time consuming
And
because it's easier for me to be judgmental and make assumptions. Anne didn't do that because she's passive aggressive, she's incompetent, she doesn't care about this job, she's a terrible work ethic. Boom. I mean, I can run through judgmental assumptions lickety split. But
yeah.
for me to be really curious and, the crucial conversations ask, I think it's ask facts, stories, and asked. Here are the facts. This is what happened. What are the stories that I'm telling myself, that we're telling ourselves, and let's ask some questions. That's going to take a lot longer. And I might feel like I don't have time to hear Anne's explanation of that. But when
Mhm.
in doing so, when I run through all those assumptions, I'll be like, oh, geez, didn't think about that one. Didn't think about,
Mhm.
oh, that makes sense. And I also like your vision of instead of sitting face to face with you and saying, we have to have a conversation, and I'm looking at you across a table, if I scooch around to the side of you, like we're bellying up to the bar and getting an espresso or getting a glass of wine, now we're sharing this. And I don't feel as confrontational where I'm not staring you in the eye. It's a lot, the body language maybe is less aggressive. So, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're on the same side trying to solve this problem. And it does take time, um, but I think that, it is also, it's preventive, and you might actually solve the problem so it doesn't happen again, because what the story you told was, this is happening over and over again, and I don't really understand why, and it's frustrating me. So, you might actually get to the root of the problem. And the other thing that I think is important, that is highlighted in this book, is to try to understand exactly what problem you want to solve. So is it the fact that this happened one time, that might be one conversation. Is it a pattern? Does it keep happening over and over again? Or is it about the relationship that you're frustrated because you think someone's taking advantage of your relationship, of your kindness. And so they're kind of like, I don't have to be accountable because, Kim's not going to hold me accountable. She'll understand that I actually need to do X, Y, and Z. And so figuring out what the right problem to solve is also part of this. And the way you framed this particular case, it was clear it was a pattern. And once you have the conversation, you can find out if it is a solvable problem or not. And if it's not, then you have some clearer messages about which way you need to go. Maybe this isn't the right job for this person. So I think that the whole idea is to try to take the energy down, several notches. And as I really think that turning to, as a colleague of mine calls it, turning to wonder, that engaging curiosity is sort of, I'm going to turn to wonder. I wonder what is going on in this situation. Why would somebody who is otherwise a really wonderful human being, or a reasonable human being at least, or somebody I hired, why would they behave this way? Is it them? Is it the system? Is it social pressures? Is it knowledge? It gives you space to ask that.
Turning another great turn of phrase. I love that. I find that so many times when I find myself in crunchy situations, it's because it comes down to communication. I clearly said A, B, and C. And that person did A, B, and C. They heard that as well. But in their mind, A, B, and C look like this.
Mm-hmm.
We all agreed, okay, we all agree that Anne's going to put a list together of thus and such. And Anne says, yes, here's my list. And I'm thinking, well, that's not the list I wanted. Or I didn't want the list to look like that.
Right,
I made
exactly.
so many assumptions. And I think I was very clear. Wasn't I clear? Clear
Mm-hmm.
as mud. Or how many times am I in an email back and forth with colleagues and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't feel like I'm being clear. Could we pick up the phone? Could we talk? I know sometimes I go fast and I think I've been heard and someone says, yeah, I gotcha. I'm with you. And then I'm like, no, that you weren't with me at all. Wait a minute, what am I, because I'm moving too fast. And so whenever I find myself getting annoyed, it's because, okay, Kim, hang on a second, just what you said, Anne. This person is super smart. They're super smart. It's not
Right.
intentional. There's something missing here. And
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think one of the mistakes we make is to say, if I would just explain it more clearly and say it again, that will solve the problem. And so our tendency, so yes, like, say it clearly, ask them to tell you what they heard so that you do have that connection. But I think that when there is a kind of a repetitive problem, I think it's tempting to say, as I said before, this is what I want to do. And like, if I say it again, that's the right answer. And I guess what I'm saying is, if it is a pattern like this, stop thinking that saying what's in your head is going to solve the problem. Start being curious about what they're hearing and what their vision is, as you say, which may not align with what you're saying, may have a completely different vision. So those are just I think some of the concepts that come up that are well described in those books. I really like them. There are a lot of others. Brene Brown talks about this ladder of inference a lot. Like, here's the story I'm telling about myself about this, and so she's also a great author in this space. And I just think this, I just want to encourage everybody listening to kind of honor that this is an important skill for all of us in leadership and just in life. And that is as sort of appealing as it might be to think of going to a session on having a difficult conversation or reading a book on difficult conversations. There's actually a skill set that, it's not that hard, and it's something you can learn for life. So go ahead and dig in.
I love it. Dr. Anne Brown, MD, MHS, ACC, was the Vice Dean for Faculty at Duke. she also did one of our very first, I just realized one of our very first podcasts, in addition to episode 196, it was episode 25, way back. We're up to like 500 episodes, but number 25. And that was when Dr. Ann Brown was given the highest award in the AAMC group on faculty affairs, the Carol J. Bland Phronesis Award. She was the awardee then. And so we talked to her right after she got that award. So that was
wonderful. An honor, such a huge honor. Yeah. Thank you, Kim. It's been really fun talking to you.
Thank you, Ann.
Hey everyone, it's your podcast producer, Casey Callahan, with your monthly Faculty Factory podcast update. Please make sure to download our free newest Faculty Factory book called The Academic Medicine Starter Kit, Timeless Tips and Guidance for Early Career Faculty Members. It is free and right now available to download on the facultyfactory.org website. Visit facultyfactory.org to find it, and you can see a link there to the Amazon version as well if you want the print version. In addition, I wanted to let you know that as of August 2024, this podcast you're listening to has more than 88,000 total downloads and more than 13,000 total YouTube views. The Faculty Factory website has drawn more than 48,000 web visitors from users in 122 different countries. We want you to be a guest on our show, so please reach out via the Faculty Factory website and send us a message there.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more, get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.